Howdy. Hi, my name is Raymond Arturo Perez, and I am a writer, director, and producer. I am also a production accountant, and I'm also doing 31 days of Instagram Lives where I cover different aspects of my journey in the Hollywood industry, as a writer, as a multi-hyphenate, as someone just trying to get by. Ultimately, I just want to spend the next 31 days sharing stuff that worked for me, stuff that didn't work for me. Also, for folks who aren't in the industry, give you an idea of how things are going right now. The industry is completely different than when I got here on Christmas Day 2013. It will continue to change. And so my hopes is by sharing some of my experiences, it might give you confidence, if not clarity, or something. But yesterday I had an overview of my journey the last 16 years since attending UT Austin, attending film school, attending business school, moving to LA, and then breaking into the TV writing portion of the film and television industry. And today I just kind of wanted to focus in on that. I wanted to talk a lot about how I broke into TV. And I think it's a great example of just how important networking is. So I mentioned yesterday that I worked 3 years in between undergrad and grad school. I realized that my writing was growing and it was getting better, but not at a rate that felt competitive, that felt like I was ready for the jobs that were out here. And so for me, after 3 years of working in the industry, I recognized that I needed to go back to graduate school to build a better foundation for my writing. I was really, really nervous about this. I was very hesitant about doing it because graduate school, higher education, universities, colleges are super expensive, unreasonably so. So also, if you don't know, when I say writing, I do mean, by the way, scripts. So I got an MFA in screenwriting from AFI, the American Film Institute, or the AFI Conservatory. I also studied writing and directing in undergrad at UT Austin. And UT Austin was a public school. So honestly, in the grand scheme of things, the price to attend was not that crazy. But when I was looking at AFI, even though they were covering half of my tuition, half is still not a lot. And because it is designed like a conservatory, I was also recognizing that I was going to be able to work. So not only was I going to be responsible for tuition, I was also going to still be responsible for my bills and all that good stuff. And so, I'll get into my criteria for grad schools and how I decided on AFI. But today I wanted to talk about once I realized I was going to AFI, I kind of made a deal with myself that if I wasn't going to work, if I was going to incur a ton of debt, and if I was really going to invest in myself, that over the next 2 years, the duration of the program, that I would make sure that I was networking at least twice a week, which is just some arbitrary number that I thought made sense. I figured maybe network during the weekend, or network once during the week and once during the weekend. But I committed to that, and I really followed through from the moment that I started the program till we graduated. And I recognized very quickly that, I think a lot of us hate networking or this notion of networking. But the more I connected with folks and was having real conversations and meaningful connections, I realized that I don't hate networking. I like meeting people. I like connecting with folks. I like connecting with folks and finding that space where you vibe. And so reworking what kinds of events I was going to was a big thing. So maybe I didn't always have to go to the like 5 to 7 p.m. happy hour drinks after work hours, or maybe I didn't have to go to a networking event that included so many different fields, but was more tailor focused to writers, or tailor focused to directors, or tailor focused to producers. And so, long story long, over the course of the first year, I had gone to different things. One of the things I went to was like a scene salon that the Writers Guild was hosting for either the LGBTQ plus committee or the, at the time, Latino Writers Committee. And I was my mentors plus one. That's because I wasn't in the guild yet. And I attended, and at that event, I ended up meeting Albert Bayano, who's a good friend of mine, also works in the industry. And we just randomly sat next to each other, and we kind of just like hooked onto each other. Time passed. Then I found myself not as a plus one, but as a plus two of Albert's. Albert was trying to convince our mutual friend Max to go to this networking event with two organizations: Black Gay Brunch, which includes Black Gay writers, directors, producers, actors, etc., and the Clubhouse, which was for Latinx writers. And it was an open house event with the two organizations hosting, in hopes of finding other creatives, most especially young folks that maybe need mentorship, that maybe are seeking community. And so Albert was telling me this, and I was like, this sounds incredible. I would love to go. So I went, and by me going, we convinced Max to go. And as a plus two, I went to this event. And the reason I'm mentioning these random events, the mentor that I went to the scene salon, I met at my first job working with Nalip, which was my first job in the film and television industry. They all were like a domino effect. And the inevitable domino that we hit was that at this event, which was like super invigorating and like emotional, I felt like at the time I'd already been in LA for like 3 or 4 years, and you'd maybe meet like a couple queer writers, you'd maybe meet a couple Black writers, you'd maybe meet a couple Latino writers a year or every few months. But what's crazy about this event was I was meeting Black queer writers and Latino queer writers all at once. Like literally every single one of them, almost working in the industry, was at this place. And it was really dope to be like, oh, like, y'all all exist. Y'all all are in communication with each other and in community with one another. And so it was really, really awesome. I ended up meeting a lot of folks from both organizations. Many have become my friends. Many of them I look up to as mentors. And one of those people that I met was Moises Zamora. At the time, he was a staff writer on a spinoff to Stars. No. At the time, he was a staff writer for the spinoff of Empire, Star. And when I met him, I did kind of my spiel. I was very used to saying my spiel and including my undergrad, because I was just wrapping up my first year of AFI. I almost forgot to mention AFI until the very, very end. And I was like, oh, and I just finished my first year as a screenwriting fellow at the AFI Conservatory. And I do believe that me going to AFI is what gave Moises more pause than maybe normal, because his immediate reaction was like, I don't think I know a lot of like queer Latino writers who've attended AFI. I can't imagine there's that many. And I told him, yeah, like I think for my year, the year above and the year below, I think there's 3 or 4 of us or something like that in total. And so what was really neat was he was like, hey, we're opening up the clubhouse for new members. We'd love for you to apply. You should send me your bio, your resume, and a writing sample. And so I sent him a bio, a resume. I sent him my first year feature writing sample. And, a few weeks later, I was a new member. But what also that meant was that Moises kind of just had me on his radar. He was checking in. He gave feedback on the writing sample and the bio and the resume. But as I'm mentioning these like dominoes, what ended up happening was Moises ended up selling Selena to Netflix somewhere in that time frame. And I remember seeing the article and being like, well, I'm in grad school. That's super dope. This was still a time where like if something was made as a movie, you really didn't expect to see it as a TV show. It was like a one and done situation. And so I was like, this is crazy. I didn't even think of the notion of being able to dive deeper into Selena's story in a television format. That's super cool. I'm in grad school, so I'm not going to be in that room. But I hope they have a great time, and I can't wait to watch it. And a few months pass, I forget. I'm in the midst of, towards the end of year 2 of AFI, and I get a call, and it's Moises. It's like March or something like that. And he's like, hey. And I was like, hi. And he was like, when do you graduate? Which is like such a peculiar thing to ask. So I was trying to make sure I chose my words carefully. And I was like, why? And long story long, he basically said that he was staffing for season 2, and they were looking for Texas writers at the time. And so he said, I can make you any guarantees. There's, very likely chance this goes nowhere, but it would be my goal to allow you to skip being an assistant in a writer's room and just come out to LA and do the thing that you came out to do, which is write. And so I sent over my TV writing sample at the time, which was like a half-hour comedy. It was about like a wishful reimagining of me in high school, where I'm like confident and out and ruling the school, and not anything like what I actually did. But was a band geek. Was based in San Antonio, and really, really loved fashion. And that was what I'd spent the whole year working on at AFI in my TV pilot class with Ed Dector. And Moises was like, this is cool because it's set in Texas. It centers on a Mexican-American family. The main character is literally a musician who wants to be a fashion designer. You're already working in the story areas that we're working on, which is also like nugget of info. Like, oh, he's also teaching me how to pitch myself to a show. Anywho, the powers that be and, the stars aligned, and I ended up being able to get into the room as a staff writer, along with 3 other staff writers who are some of my best friends. Because I got into the room and worked 12 weeks, I met the criteria to become a member of the Writers Guild of America. But I say all of this because this is like my break into the industry, which we can get into in a bit. But it all happened because I chose to go to a networking event, which led to actually meeting somebody who would then invite me to the next networking event, to the next networking event, to the next networking event, where I'd meet Moises. And so I remember one time I was thinking, like, how did this happen? And I traced it all, and it all traced back to Albert Baiano. And then if I traced it even further back, my mentor, Ana Alicia, who I met at Leap at the 2015 Media Summit that I coordinated. And so it's just really nice. All those people are like still very close to me. But that was kind of my break. And then I say break in quotes because one of the things that my professor, Ed Decter, said, and he just has like a ton of words of wisdom. Ed Decter, again, was my TV pilot professor at AFI. And one of the things that he said was one of the most difficult things you'll ever do in your career as a television writer is get your first television writing job. It's going to be so hard. And you'll get in and you'll do it. And then you'll be working towards the second one and realize actually the real most difficult thing to do in your writing career as a television writer is to get the second one, because everyone will always think that the first one was a fluke. And so this notion of like breaking into the industry is like a reoccurring thing that you have to do. Like until you get some sort of status, which is really reserved to, household names, or folks that do have a pedigree of credits. They've gone to their fourth or fifth credit. You really do have to hustle just as if you were still getting that first gig. You have to network as if you were getting that first gig. And it's a lot of work, and it can be very, could lead to burnout. So I think that's also why I kind of wanted to mention, as I'm at 17 minutes and I'm trying to keep these under 20, is that I also, one of my criteria for networking was, if I'm not in the mood, don't do it. If I don't want to talk to people, if I'm not in the right mindset, hi Stacey Monroe, then maybe today is not the day to go networking. And so also just being kind to myself, letting myself rest. And I think now that I have 13 years of living in LA and working in and out of the industry in some form or capacity, I really do think that, a lot of people say this, it's like a marathon, it's not a sprint. And so really checking in on yourself and making sure that like you're giving yourself grace, but you're, not falling from why you moved to Los Angeles in the first place. But that was how I broke into the industry the first time. And I really am thankful for the experience of writing on Selena and working not just with Moises, but like just you can tell he's so great by the people that he like brought together. Like this man literally produced our room to be this like cohesive family that was going to work really fast in 12 weeks. And so that whole room has really become an extension of my LA family. And so I'll be over the next 31 minus 2 days, continuing to go over different things, like why did I go to graduate school? What was I looking for in a screenwriting program? Why was it only AFI, USC, UCLA, and NYU that I was looking at? Hi, Ezra. And many other things. Why am I a production accountant? How did I get into production accounting? And how am I keeping afloat? So I hope you join me. If you guys have any questions, if you guys want to have me cover any topic that is not already on my table of contents in my link in bio, let me know. And if I don't have the answer to a question, I'm sure I know the people that would. Thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye.